our framework, and also how to set up Jenkins server on Azure. Right. Any questions on this? Great. So we'll wait for 3 more minutes and then we'll start. So we can start now. If anyone who doesn't have an Azure account or have not created an Azure account, just follow the process. Take a look at it. You will have the recording. You can do it at your own time. But whoever has an Azure account can follow the steps alongside, right? So what we're going to do as a first step is we'll set up a Jenkins server. Uh, as the next step, we will create a job uh, on the Jenkins where we will create a pipeline for our project, and then we will execute on that server. We are only going to create a master Jenkins server. We will not be adding any slaves because master is more than enough to take care of the test that we are going to run. So I'll not dig deep into the master slave concept uh, or any detailed configuration of Jenkins. There's a lot of things that we can do on Jenkins. I'm not going to go deep into those item list. Our main criteria is to set up our project on Jenkins server and execute it from there. And as a last step, we will integrate it with the Teams app so that when any build pass or fail, we get a notification on the Teams app saying the status of the build, right? So this is all we need to do in terms of creating that uh, plan on Jenkins. And whenever you are running on an enterprise project, you can plug that job or that pipeline into your existing pipeline. So whenever, let's say, there is going to be a build or a commit that happens, uh, it will automatically pick up that job as a part of pipeline and it will execute that, right? So whenever your developer make a code commit, as soon as he does a code commit, it triggers these tests, and then the developer gets immediate notification on if his commit was a successful commit or a failed commit, right? We will discuss on top of that how we can utilize and what places we can add triggers based on the project requirement, right? So I'm going to share my screen. Anything specific you want me to answer at this point, please feel free to ask, and then I'll include that in the session itself. All right. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
Sumit.
Yes, sir.
So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to Azure Marketplace. So let's go to Azure Marketplace. So you search for Azure Marketplace.microsoft.com. You will come to this page. These are all the featured apps or services that just a second. Yeah, sorry, I was getting a call. All right. So these are all the services that services that Azure provides as popular infrastructure apps that you can add. These are all there are some that are provided by third party, and there are some apps that Microsoft itself create with certain inbuilt functions. So if I search for Jenkins, so there are two Jenkins, right? Uh, so there are multiple Jenkins actually. So these Jenkins apps are provided by Cognosys, which basically tells what kind of Jenkins and with what configuration it's going to run. Some are running with CentOS, which is a Linux operating system, some on Windows Server. This is the Jenkins apps that is provided by Microsoft itself. And Bitnami is also one of the provider that provides a Jenkins cluster. So it includes master slave configuration as well. So we're going to use Microsoft Jenkins. And what it includes, it's a solution. It's basically a template to uh, put it on the cloud, right? So what it contains uh, is a template with all these features already enabled within that solution, right? So it already has a Git, it has Azure Credentials plugin to connect an Azure VM and container agents with for Elastic build test and continuous integration, storage plugins, CLI. This might not be useful for you, all of them, but there are certain items that are useful, which you definitely need to install once you get the app, right? If you're doing it manually, there are a couple of ways that you can put it on Azure. The one way is to get these apps and create a VM. So this is a Microsoft published Jenkins master on a Linux Ubuntu. If you're doing it manually, you can do it two ways. You can create a simple VM first. It can be Ubuntu, it can be CentOS, it can be a, a, a vanilla Linux version, and then you need to install Jenkins on top of it, right? What this does is it already comes baked in with Jenkins on a VM and with all these features already enabled within that Jenkins, right? The other way you can go about is create a Docker container for your Jenkins. That will require some detailed level of configuration and also how you manage those. I'm pretty sure as Azure does have a template for Docker as well, so we can use that one as well. But for now, we will use a Jenkins master on a Linux machine. So all I need to do is click on get it now. So what it will do is it will take me to the Jenkins configuration and Azure configuration to complete the process. So now in Azure portal page where it will have some configuration on what kind of VM we need to set and other Jenkins related configurations. So once I have this page, I can just click on create and it should take me to that page. So it will ask me what kind of resource group I need to. Resource group is basically a combination of resources put in place for certain VMs or or you can have the same VM resource grouping as well. So I'm going to create a new resource group called Jenkins. So all the resource that I will create here, the VM, the IPs, and the SSDs, all will be collected in this resource group. So when I want to destroy this, there is a possibility that some of the resources may not get destroyed, but I can identify simply by looking into that resource group and associated uh, resources. Also, it helps me in looking at the billing from the billing perspective, where I know that this resource group uh, is costing me this much, right? So I will exactly know what are the items associated with it, and what are the resources, and what's the cost on those resources. Again, the region I can set to anything. Name I'm setting as Jenkins. The username I'm setting as Jenkins admin. Authentication, there are two types of authentication, password and SSH public key. Uh, SSH public key is something that you can generate on your machine. So the only person to have access to this server will be the person who is going to have this public key with him. So I'm going to use password for now. And I'm going to use, let's create a password. All right, so it's already auto-generated. So let's move on. So we're done with the basic part. Now let's go to the additional settings. Now uh, it's asking me what size do I want my CPUs or my configuration for the VM. So currently it's two CPUs and 7 GB memory, which is DS2 V2 V size. It will cost me $136 per month. I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to change the configuration to something lower, which will cost me less. I can go with this, which will cost me just $10 a month. But if you look here, the RAM is 1 GB and vCPU is 1. It might be a little less for my needs. So I'm going to go with a little upper version, which is a dollar a day version, which is around 38.87. It has two vCPUs and 4 GB RAM. So I'm happy with this configuration. And then I'm going to select this. Virtual network, I'm going to create a new one that's all assigned by itself. A domain name label, which is the address that you will have if anyone needs to access uh, Jenkins server. So it will already have this postfix.eastus.cloudapp.azure.com. I'm gonna give us testoper training .eastus.cloudapps.azure.com. Jenkins release type. This you can have multiple uh, release types. I'm going to go with what Jenkins goes. The LTS is the latest one, and the JDK is basically your Java type, right? What version of Java you want. Integration settings, you don't need to change anything here. Service principal integration is auto. It's managed by Azure itself. And then native artifact manager, you don't need to enable that. And then, yep.
Sumit, there's a request to increase the zoom
Oh,
size
okay.
of the page.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Okay. So next step, what we will do is, so I'll go to previous ones as well. If someone, let's review the basics ones is we created a new resource group. The region we selected, a name, a username that you will log in with, your password for that username, and your authentication type should be password for now. You can definitely add SSH public key as well, but that will limit people access to those server only who have SSH public key. So enterprise wide, we don't use password. We only use SSH public key. And then the size of the CPU, as I mentioned before, the size varies in cost. Uh, so I'm selecting B2S, which is the VM size, with two vCPUs and 4 GB RAM, and it will cost me about $38 a month. And then I'm selecting SSD, which is a faster storage, a faster disk. And then I'm adding a domain label, which is testoper training .eastus.cloudapp.azure.com. This will be my access, a public access to that server. You don't need to change anything in the integration server. It's pretty much auto-managed by Azure. Let's review and create. Once you go to review, you can look at the details of what you have selected. And if you don't like it, if you want to change something, you can do it by going to previous. And let's click on create. You can also download a template where if you want to spin it up again, you just upload this template and execute this template. Uh, so you don't have to follow these UI steps. So I already clicked on create. Now it says your deployment is underway. And once the deployment is complete, we can go to testover training URL, and then we can look at that. So it will take some time to set up the VM and deploy Jenkins on it, and then set up all the configurations that we, but it should be under 5 minutes. Shouldn't take that long. So the idea is for you guys to see how to deploy certain things on Azure by yourself. Uh, it's pretty much straightforward if you want to install uh, certain, we create certain VMs for your own needs. Jenkins is one where you can use Jenkins for your own training purposes, as well as if you want to do some practice on creating certain jobs or create some pipelines by yourself, which you can run for your own projects. I'm using a bigger machine, but if it's only for you and your personal needs, you can definitely degrade it to something that is more cost friendlier. Uh, though if you are new to Azure, it will give you $250 of credit to use, so you can use that as well. So once we have the Jenkins server ready, we need to uh, do certain changes in the configuration as well as create an SSH tunnel uh, because this uh, deployment will create a Jenkins server over HTTP where you cannot use any kind of login functionality because of the nature of the request. It's pretty much not encrypted and anyone can read or intercept that data. So what we will do is we'll create a tunnel and run it on our local. So all the logins that we'll do it on the local, but you will still have the access to the cloud. It will be a tunnel from the cloud itself where we will uh, basically do our logging, but everything will still be visible on the cloud. The only thing that you will not be able to do uh, on that particular IP is logging. But you can definitely add HTTPS to that domain, and then you will be able to do anything. But for this session purpose, we are not going to do that. And once we have the Jenkins server set up, we will be installing certain plugins in order to enable Jenkins to run our project. Uh, there are 4 or 5 plugins that we need. One is Python, which basically allows Jenkins to run any Python script uh, or Bash script. And then we will have a Shining Panda plugin where it will allow us to run Tox environments. And then we will have a test analyzer plugin where it will display our historical tests, the results of it, and all the history related to those tests. Uh, then we will also have one more plugin that I'm forgetting. Give me a second. Then we will have a plugin on uh, our Teams app, which is Office connector, so that it can Office 365 connector, so that it can send those notifications to Teams app. The deployment is still undergoing.
Maybe you need to refresh the page.
I did refresh from here. In progress. So you can look here, some of the operation details of what is happening and what kind of resources getting created. And you can also look into the details of uh, any operation. So this one succeeded, uh, which is Jenkins VM deploy. So the VM has been successfully deployed. It's currently doing an Jenkins init. So it's basically putting Jenkins on that VM. So if you look here, this sign means it's in progress. So provision state is running. Once it is completed, our deployment is completed. So this is the last step. And it's running for, so this is the longer running step. So if you look here, this one took 1 minute, 10 seconds. Is anyone doing this with me alongside? So if not, once the session is over, you can create your Azure account and do it once so that you're comfortable with uh, the VM deployments and on the Jenkins as well. So our deployment is complete. What we'll do next is, so our IP address will go there and we'll put test open. So we have the Jenkins server up and running. If I go to login now, it should throw me this error, which says the Jenkins instance does not support HTTPS. So logging through a public IP address has been disabled. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this and we're going to create a tunnel uh, based on port forwarding. And then we're going to assign that tunnel to our local host with the port 8080. So I'm going to copy this command. So I'm going to paste this command over here. I need to make certain changes. The username is the username that we set for our admin. which is Jenkins admin. Password is the same as that we set there. So now I am inside inside the Jenkins server, which says Jenkins admin @Jenkins. I need to run one more command to get the first time login password for Jenkins, which is going to be so the Jenkins stored their password and Jenkins secrets initial admin password. So if I read that file, it should give me the password for that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tunnel this, and now it's currently tunneled. So I'm going to open localhost, and I'm going to open localhost and see if this is working or not. So localhost 8080. So now I'm able to tunnel. So I am able to run Jenkins on testopertraining.eastus.cloudapp.azure.com. And then I'm able to run the same through my local host. So the tunneling is now complete. Now I will be able to log in. Uh, what it will ask me is to unlock Jenkins, and it says that go here and find that password. We already have that password, so I will paste it here. So this will allow me to do a login into Jenkins. So I am logged in into Jenkins now. Admin is my username, and this is my password. So I am logged in as admin now. And now I can, the first thing that I need to do is install the plugins. So I go to Manage Jenkins. I click on Manage Plugins. This will list out all the plugins that are already installed. So some of the plugins have been installed by Microsoft itself for the ease of making Azure functionality. So we have AD plugin, Artifact Manager, Container Agents. So all these plugins are basically installed by by Microsoft, because this is a Microsoft provided Jenkins. Now we need more plugins that we need. So we're gonna go to available tab and search for those plugins. So I type in test. The one that I need is test results analyzer. This will give me a build report. And then I need Shining Panda as well, which is a build tool. And we need Python plugin as well. And then we need Office connector as well. Yep, I think that's pretty much what we need in terms of the plugins. I'm gonna do an install without restart, so it will show me what plugins have been done. So Office 365 connector, Shining Panda, Python, and test and result analyzer. That's all we need. We'll go back to the top page. If you want to give access to some other people in your group, you can create your admin users here. I will skip and continue as admin. And then let's create a job. Let give the name as Testoper Training. I'll create it as a multi-configuration project. So this is how it will look like when you try to create a job. So the first thing that I need to do is source code management. I need to specify what repository it needs to fetch. So we have this TA track repository. I'm going to use this repository as our base repository to fetch the code from. All right, so I will use, did it go? So I'll copy this link and provide the URL here. So it will now ask me if I want to just download it, or if it is not an open repository in the enterprise world, you need to provide your credentials. You can add your credentials in Jenkins from here, and then you can provide those Jenkins in order to install that repository. And the branch that I need to specify for the build is going to be master branch. Build triggers I can use in terms of if I want to build periodically, or I need to poll the source code management at a frequent interval. I can do that. And then I'm going to add an access which says talks. So this is the configuration metrics. The plugin will enable us to define a talks for that. I can use the default environment, so it will run on all these environments I can select. But I'm going to use a specific. So if you look at the code for it, we'll go to exercise. We're going to run Tavern training, and the talks that is here is Tavern. So I'm going to run this environment, which is a custom environment. So I'm going to add this. And then I'm going to add a build step, which is basically a talks builder. And then I will provide the file for it. But I need to provide the path as well, right? If I look here, the path for this talks file is this. So I'm going to use this configuration for the training. So recreate option is something that you can skip or you can add. Is basically whenever it will run, it will recreate the talks environment. Basically, it will download all the libraries that are required, and then it will execute based on that. So once this is done, then we can add another post build step, which is publishing the results. So publishing the results will use XML files. Uh, for example, this is where my XML should be stored. So if I go here, the path to my reporting file is test reports. So I'm going to use this as our base. So what I'm looking here is that when the test run, there should be an XML file that will get placed here. And then I will use that XML file to pass those results. Right. So in the previous lecture, if you have seen, there was an XML file that was getting generated. We're going to use that XML file here. So I need to provide a path for it. I'm gonna go this, and I will pick up any XML file that is associated. I will add one more build step, which will be uh, you can also add an email notification if you want, uh, or upload whatever results are there to Azure storage or to any other storage. You can use that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do create a webhook for Office 365 connector. So what I'm going to do is let me share. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a connector in the Teams app. So I go to Teams app. I created a channel called notifications. I go here. I'll click on connectors. Once I click on connectors, there should be a connector for Jenkins. I need to configure it. I will enter a name. I'll create that connector. What it will ask me to do is uh, it will give me a webhook URL, which I can use. So once I copy this and I'll go to my Office connector, I'll add webhook. I will provide the URL here. I'll provide a name. And then on the advanced, I need to tell what kind of notifications uh, you guys want to send to the Teams app. If, let's say, notify build start, notify failure, notify success, unstable, or back to normal. Right? I'm going to apply and save. So if I go to back to the dashboard, I should have this test over training job created. And I can now build this. I will again show one more time the configuration. So you have a general configuration, an Office 365 connector configuration. We have a Git configuration, triggers. If you want, you can add. If you don't want, you can skip this. A custom talks configuration, which is in the configuration metrics. And then you have a build step, which is to run these configuration file, and then post build actions. And now I'm going to start building my job. And then you have a test result analyzer here. So it will uh, give you a detailed list of and insights into your test. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to another instance of the same version. So if you guys can see my screen, I go to Jenkins. I have another instance running with the same configuration. So if I go here, look at the
Hey, Sumit, are you sharing the screen?
Yeah. Oh, it's not visible?
Yeah, just now it's not.
Oh, okay.
Is it same for others?
Yeah, no desktop.
Yes. Yeah, it's not
Let me
visible.
share again. Let me share again. Is it visible now?
Nothing.
No, Sumit.
Okay. All right. Is it visible now?
It's coming. Yeah, it's visible now.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I already executed twice. I didn't know that it wasn't being shared. So let me go inside again. Again, the configuration. I'll show one more time if you guys missed anything. And now the next step is let's do a build. So we can go to that particular build. We'll look at
You know,
the.
there's a request from Shanti to increase your font size, if you don't mind.
So now I'm looking at the console output on what it is executing. So if you look here, this is the progress of the console on Jenkins server. So it has now started the test. And it gave me a success saying the test have been completed. So this is basically the console output is what we execute when we run through command line. And then if we go back to our project, it will throw a success. And then if you want to look at the results, you have a test analyzer where you can look here. So build one was NA that didn't run. 2 is passed, 3 is passed. And if you want to look deeper into test, what tests were run, so you can dig deep into the test and see what steps passed and what tests failed. So this is the one test that we ran, get some domain data for JSON placeholder API. So this will give you a direct view. You can download all these results and send as a report, or anyone can come here, look at the link and look all those details for that particular project. And then it is a trend line, which shows the top 10 broken tests or what happened during a particular test. This test didn't run successfully, so 0 of everything. And then this past one, total 1, and then it will show the trend over time. And also it will show your build number, build step over time. It will keep uh, making those kind of insights for you itself. So you don't have to do anything. Those insights are built into these plugins. And then on the notification side, if we look at it, we added it into Teams app. So if I go to notifications, I can see the build is successful. So we had a couple of parameters that whenever the build starts, it sends a notification to Teams app. And when it is a success or a fail, it should show a message as well. So the build started on 746, which is build number 3. If you look here, this is the build number. Uh, this is the build number 3, which is the latest build, and then build number 3 finished with a success. If you want to view the build, you can directly click here and go to your test open instance. So you will be able to view everything, but you will not be able to log in. So if you want to result the test results, this is also one way that you can view the results. And it took 5.8 seconds. So if you want to look at the execution time as well, it will display those execution times for you as well. Any questions till now on this? Is it clear on how we execute CI/CD pipeline with our project? We need to create Jenkins, which will not be your task. That will be operational task, but you need to tell your operations team what kind of plugins you need in order to enable your project execution. So that's why it was very important to do one-time setup by yourself. So when you go to your operations team and say, you have this need, which is exactly what you will define in terms of these are the plugins that you really need. And this is how you want to display your test to the management team or for your own team purpose. But operations team will ask you what kind of plugins do you need, because they will not be aware of what your goal is through this job. And in the second aspect, when your dev team will have a Jenkins pipelines for the build as well. So you can attach this job to their pipeline. So whenever they will have any build, this job will run automatically, and then it will show a feed. It will provide a feedback at that instant itself, right, to the developer, saying it is a pass or a fail. So anything that changes or fails specifically from API, because API is pretty stable, it's not like UI that you really need to wait till the deployment is complete and then run these tests. You can plug in the dev pipeline itself. So the good part about this is this CI/CD pipeline is very much useful in any kind of API automated testing, right? It enables the developers to give instant feedback for their code check-ins. This is, yeah,
Sumit,
go ahead.
Sumit, I saw in the Teams you created a channel called Notification, but you can also tie this to our Testoper Codeathon channel, right?
I can, but I don't want to put a lot of noise in that channel. What I will do is I will delete this channel once this session is over.
Okay, and then there is a question in the chat that when we do this CI/CD, can we actually see the JSON file where the test is passed, right? The response file, right? And through the Jenkins, and also there is log file, error files. Can we, view from the Jenkins, right? That's the
Yes.
question asked? Yeah.
So the failure outputs and failure results will be there in Jenkins. But when we talk about JSON files, we don't recommend putting JSON files in Jenkins. That will your Jenkins has some storage, right? So like we had a storage of 4 GB. Your Jenkins server in an enterprise world will also have a storage, right? If you're going to store your JSON files with every execution, it's going to fill up that storage pretty quickly. So there is some limitation on what you can store as artifacts. So what you can do is you can definitely store those files if you configure here. There is an option for the post build action to store artifacts, archive the artifacts. There you can store your JSON files, but then with every execution, it will get stored and your Jenkins server will be full in no time. the idea is not to store those JSON files, but your reporting should be enough uh, to make you understand that the JSON execution has an error. You don't need to store JSON files. When Tavern will throw error, it will automatically give you what was expected from the JSON and what is the actual from JSON. So that should be enough for you to take a look and debug your development, right? Does that make sense?
It is so.
So let me look at the chat.
Yeah.
Any other question? I'm right on time today.
Yeah, there was a question that was asked. Sometime deployments taking long on Azure portal. What is your?
That's true. That's true. Sometimes when you talk about deployments, is it the VM deployment or the test deployment, right? VM deployment may take some time, which might be a little longer, but then you're not going to do it every day, right? That's going to be one-off activity for any VM deployment. And that's the nature of Azure and what kind of resources we are putting in. If we are not putting any, let's say I'm just spinning up a VM and I'm not putting Jenkins in app on top of it, it's going to be really quick. But if I'm putting a lot of configuration on top of it, it's going to take some time to put those configurations based on their cookbooks in that VM, right? Because you're getting that baked in and you're not doing it manually. So even if it takes a little bit longer, it's still uh, it's still I say we can compromise on that based on the benefits that we are getting out of it. And it's going to be a one-off activity. You're not going to do it all the time. There will be times when if you're doing a lot of parallel runs, all your master and slaves are going to be booked, right? So you need to make sure that you have enough master and slaves to run those parallel execution.
I mean, it's actually good, Sumit, that the way that you created the Jenkins, right? So once the code is being built by the developers, and automatically there is a trigger that could kind of help to do the testing of that code automatically and provide the result, right, in that CI/CD.
Right.
Now you kind of mentioned that it is an operations work, but what if I have seen in some of the organizations, testers build their own automation scripts, right? And they build their own Jenkins CI/CD and everything, keep it ready. When the code is available, they just all they have to do is create a trigger to run all the stuff. So the question is, as a tester, an automation tester, how important it is to kind of understand this CI/CD model.
So I guess I was not clear. Operations work is only limited to set up the Jenkins server. They are not going to do anything in terms of creating jobs inside Jenkins. So that work still has to be done by development or tester. So what operations team is going to do is do the Jenkins level maintenance, like plugins, right? You cannot have plugins for specific projects. It has to be installed Jenkins wide. So whatever you are going to do Jenkins wide, which will impact other projects as well, right? That level of access a normal developer or tester will not have. So whenever you're installing any plugins, removing any plugins, right? You might remove one plugin, but then other project might be using it, you don't know, right? So those kind of access still remains with operations. But when we talk about code deployment or configuration of a job or creation of a job and deletion of a job, that still remains with a developer and tester. Operations don't do that work.
Understood. Clear. So it's important that as a tester and an automation expert, one should know CI/CD to.
Yes. Yeah. If you don't know CI/CD, you're not gonna get your code deployed on Jenkins, right? And then you cannot create a pipeline, right? And no one in your organization will do that for you, right? It has to be either a tester or a test stopper, if I say, to do that work. So it is very important to know in and out of your Jenkins, right? Or any other CI/CD tool like Bamboo or Travis CI. All three tools work on the same principles. They will have different plugins, but this is how the overall process still remains the same with everyone. All the tools have source code management and triggers for those pipe jobs, and then notifications, build actions. The concept remains the same. It's only the tooling is different, and the infrastructure might be different. But you don't need to be worried about infrastructure because that's not what you will do. It's only for your own purpose that you want to create your own Jenkins server, and you know exactly how Jenkins is created and what we need for Jenkins in order to run our test.
Pretty,
The plugins might be different for other CI/CD tools like Bamboo.
pretty clear, Sumit. Pretty clear. Is the session that you planned for today is kind of covered?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something to the team here. Just wanted to.
Sumit Hetal here.
Yep.
Can you give us some small kind of exercise similar to the every session so we can do on top of your, we are doing with you here as well, but on top of that we can do it extra practice so we are
Right.
100% sure what we learn.
So I'm not going to give exercise based on each session. So
Okay.
today we conclude the Tevrin part, right?
Yeah.
And then, so what I'm going to do by end of today is going to send you kind of ideas on the implementation of a project, which will be a use case for you guys to implement. And then we will discuss that in our next class. So it will be most like a use case that you guys can implement. And then
Okay.
I'm going to review that based on your uploads on GitHub. And then we will review that in our last Tevrin session, which will be next week.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You know,
Yeah.
that actually brings to the point, right? Hetal, the Tavern session is more or less concluded. Now we are getting into the project and
Yeah.
couple of things, right? First thing is that you will get the certificate of attendance from Testoper based on the criteria that we have set. So Nahendra, are you in the call, please? Nahendra, I see you're in the call.
Kadar. Yes,
Yeah.
Kadar.
Can you collect the attendance and make sure the same rule was applied for our Python and come up with the list of attendees who are eligible for the certification based on the attendance as of today? That's the criteria number one, right? To get the certificate. And then the criteria number two is the project that Sumit is going to give. Those who do not have an attendance, if they complete the project successfully, and Sumit can recommend them to get the certificates from us, right? So we will provide certificate of attendance to you all for attending this Tavern session. That's the first one I want to say. And then the second one that I wanted to tell you guys is if you go to the Eventbrite, I'm not sure, Sumit, did you cover this in the start of the program? So I was in another meeting. I joined only after 15 minutes of your session.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up here. So this week, 22nd is something that, it's completed theory, and then 29th is going to be project, July 29th. And then on August 5th, we are starting a session which is based on Selenium base for UI testing, right? So that's the session we will start after this Tavern, and that will run for 6 weeks. And after completion of the Selenium, then we will start the robot framework for UI testing. Okay, and that will start on September 16th, and that will run for 6 weeks. And then after robot framework is completed, the last session that we will start for this year is test project. I'm not sure if you guys know what is test project. If you don't know, you need to go and Google. It is an open source project developed by the group of automation experts for testing web, mobile, and API. So you would also learn the test project, but for mobile testing, of course. In future sessions, you will also cover test project for other testings and so on. So this is the plan for this year, and we will end this year with 4 tools, or in other words, 4 frameworks that we will provide you an opportunity to learn. The first one is Tavan, which is completed, followed by Selenium, followed by Robot Framework, and followed by Test Project. That will end on December. I think it's just wanted to December 2nd, and that more or less completes this year's session. And then next year we will come back with a continuation of this test automation session from January onwards for additional tools, additional frameworks and tools, right? So that's from the point of view of test automation. And from the point of view of IA track that's happening on Saturday, those who are attending or not attending. So the cloud fundamentals will complete from August 15th onwards. It's going to be on microservices and Kubernetes. And after that, we are going to continue with artificial intelligence with Python. And after that, we are going to come back to the cloud and data architecture framework and end the year on December 5th for the IA track, right? So all the sessions that's going to happen for both TA track and IA track is already available in this Eventbrite. The kind request to you all is, register, of course, if you are interested in these topics. And also, please refer your friends and colleagues to, take benefit from all the good work that we are doing in Testoper. That's the first one I wanted to say. And the second one is going back to, again, hackathon. This Friday, 7 p.m. is our meeting. We have 2 teams formed and 2 projects that's kicking off in the hackathon track. And if you are interested, join and benefit from that too. The hackathon will make you a different thought process from the point of view of individual career development. So whatever you're learning in IA and TA track is all about learning stuff, but hackathon is all about creating stuff from scratch, right? So that will give you a different perspective and build your talent and challenge yourself to become better in your career path or knowledge or whatever that you wanted to develop. So those were the 2 key points. And any questions or anything? Yeah.
Khardir, we would like to join the Friday session, but it's too much hectic whole week, like each and every session. Is it possible we can do like bi-weekly or once a month or something? Because I would really love to join the hackathon, but it's very tight and I cannot have a time to attend and that every Friday.
Yeah, so the way that we did was we targeted to have this session for 4 Fridays, right, Hetal? So what we did was first Friday, I kind of helped the people to understand what is hackathon and how important it is for you as an individual. And then the second week, what we did was, different people came and pitched their idea. It was the second week. And then the third week, what we did was we prioritized the idea through voting. And then we formed 2 teams who will work on those first 2 projects ideas that we chose based on the voting. That's the third week. And this week, what we are going to do is establish a GitHub and assign mentors, and then leave the team to build the project by themselves and give them the target to build whatever that they need to build before, until end of November. And then December, it will be a pitch day where they will come and show their projects and win prizes, right? So this is how we are doing. And this is a pilot project we are doing, to be very honest with you, right? Normally hackathons happens only for like 2 days. But this one is a pilot project only for the internal attendees of Testoper programs to really help them to, grow, right? But this is an internal project, but we also are working with some sponsors and trying to find some sponsors who can sponsor our official hackathon, which is not an internal hackathon, which we will do it for 2 days before end of this year. We don't know whether we will do it before end of this year or next year. That would be only for 2 days, right? And the advantage is those people, whoever are getting involved now in hackathon, they already have an idea, they are already working on it. So they will have an upper hand when that competition comes, right? So it's kind of an advantage for the internal people. So that's what is happening right now. And after this Friday, I don't think there will be any sessions. We will have like once in 2 weeks, 30 minutes to just follow up to see where both the teams are, how they are developing, and we'll monitor them in the hackathon channels and so on. Make sense, Hetal?
Yeah, it does. Actually, I want to join from the beginning, but it was like a tight scheduling, so I couldn't join. But I was always checking the notification and talk and check
Don't
regarding
worry.
that.
It's an internal pilot project. Those
Yes.
who are interested to create something, I
Yes.
always tell the people three things, right? There are three categories of people. The first category of the people is who wants to learn whatever they need to learn to do their job, right? That's the category one. And then the category two of the people are the ones who wants to learn what they are doing for the job, but also wants to learn more than what they are doing for the job, so they can be helpful for the other team members, like CI/CD today, right? And stand out of the crowd, right, among their team. So that's the second category of people. And the third category of the people are the one who innovate in the companies that they work and help the companies to do new things and improve things better than what they are doing to reduce cost and improve revenue for the companies, right? So that's the third category of people. And all the programs that we are doing, right, meetup and all those things, is for category 1 and 2. And to make the people to become a category 3 is where the hackathon comes into the picture. And that's what we are trying to help only those who are interested within our community to get that talent, right, and start thinking from that direction. But we will do an official hackathon, which will only happen for 2 days. We are looking for sponsors, and if we get someone who wants to pay prices like $2,000 for the winning team and things like that, then we would do an official hackathon before end of this year. We are hunting for sponsors. So you have not missed anything, right? This is mainly for the people, internal people, to help them to attain that category 3 level to develop their skills. But official hackathon, definitely one of the weekend it will come once we have the sponsors who can sponsor the hackathon for us. All right.
All right, I hope everyone enjoyed the Tavern. It's a very useful framework if you want to implement something on the API testing in your enterprise. And it's going to be really easy ramp up with CI/CD pipelines. So think about whenever you guys are thinking about automated API testing, do you want to use this, which can be pretty easy in terms of ramp up and pretty flexible in the complexity of any API testing? Or any other tool. One more competitor to this framework is Karate DSL, which is again gaining a lot of traction in the testing community because of domain-specific language as well. So we will cover that as well in our later sessions. But when we talk about Postman, they are good tools, but from the CI/CD pipeline view and from the open source point of view, they are not yet that flexible and uh, easy ramp on any API testing. Although they do have a great UI for short-term API testing or a manual API testing, but for automation and for pipelines, Tavern and Karate does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, you're going to learn lots of tools, right? Year after year, continue to be part of this community. We will try our best to help you to become experts in everything. So as far as next meeting is concerned, next Wednesday is concerned, there's a couple of things going to happen, right? The first thing is going to happen is obviously Sumit is going to provide the project work for you guys to do, and then help you with that project in our next Wednesday session, which is our last session, right, Sumit? And then the second thing
That's
is going to happen is Nagendra is going to present the list of attendees who attended the Tavern session, who will be getting the certificates in our next Wednesday session. And after that announcement, we will provide within a week, like last time, we will send the certificates to your email IDs registered with us. And as usual, we kindly request you to, post it in the LinkedIn and, promote yourself in the LinkedIn as well as Testoper in the LinkedIn. All right, perfect. So with that, Sumit, if you don't have anything, can we close the call?
Yes, we can close it now.
All right. You guys have a great evening, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.